This week on Induction Noise. Andre and Mr. Q watch Neil take his shirt off. Bloody impressive.
It was very impressive.
Neil goes through his cupboard.
Because I don't own enough tweed.
And Nico tries his hand at a cookery show.
I might get roasted more than Neil.
Well, good evening, gentlemen, and welcome back to my office. I am Mr. Q. With me is Nico.
How's it going?
Neil.
Good evening.
And have you been practicing how to say hello? Can we manage it this time, do you think, Andre?
Hey, hey, hey.
There you go.
It's getting better. It's getting better. So today we are going to chat about going to Simola. As you all know, the hill climb is coming up quite quickly, and we are all going to attend. We are going to be accredited members of the press. We're going to be recording some episodes there, I think.
Yeah.
But mostly we're going to enjoy some awesome motorsports, which is what it's all about. But getting you guys together to try and plan this trip is a bit like trying to herd cats. So I've decided I'm just going to get you into the podcast and
Trick us into planning.
And we'll turn this into our little planning session and discuss how exactly we're going to do this.
But I think I wouldn't call it a planning session. It's more of a hype-up session.
Yeah.
It's a hype up
Like,
session.
how do you prepare for this event in the best possible way to get the most out of it?
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. But
Book some tickets.
tickets.
We book it accommodation. Done. Now,
Done.
what happens?
Now what? Well, first thing,
How we get
you're gonna go onto your computer. You're gonna open up your Outlook or whatever, and you're gonna check because your emails are gonna come in with your tickets and whatever. But when I did that, I noticed that we have been
Inundated with an email.
indeed. We have been inundated with an email.
It's a surprise.
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 This
Didn't see
hardly
that coming.
ever happens, but today it did. And it says, "Dear presenters of Induction Noise, it pains me much to admit this, but I have never been on a racetrack. I enjoy driving very much, and one might even make the claim that I have become quite good at it. But the thought of pushing my skills to the limit in an environment where such behavior would not land me in jail, or at the very least end up with me paying a bribe of some significant heft, excites me. Such is my excitement that now that I have the financial means to do so, I wish to procure a vehicle of adequate performance and ability to test my own wheelmanship in the cauldron of automotive excellence that is a racetrack. This wouldn't be to race competitively, but simply a car that I could use on track days to have some fun with. I would spend up to 300,000 Rand for the right example, so please help me find it, and perhaps you can find me on the track. Your adoring fan, Mr. Drive Hard."
Well, this is probably the nicest fan we've had.
Yeah.
I must admit.
Yeah,
He's a bit confusing in the sense of he's excited by getting stopped, but he wants to go to a racetrack.
Mr. Drive Hard.
Yeah, I also was a bit confused with that.
What does he do for a living? Is he in the adult entertainment industry?
Well, it's better than Mr. Die Hard, you know. so-
As per usual, you have 20 questions about the email, but it doesn't
I
actually
was-
say anything.
I was just thinking out
Let's
loud.
create a profile here.
I was just
for
thinking out
ourselves.
loud that if he isn't, maybe you should consider it.
So, yeah. What do you guys think? What would
Well,
make a nice track toy for 300 grand?
I think I know what you're going to say Quentin. So for that reason, I've gone completely polar opposite because I don't think we all can say that he must buy a canoe. So what I would suggest, and there's method to this madness, and I might get roasted more than Neil with his GTRs here, but is to go and buy a E36 M3. You can get them for under 300k. You can get them for in 200 something K, and quite recently I shared one for 130, which probably needs some work, but my method to this is it doesn't really matter what car you're going to buy. You are going to want to do some stuff to it before you take it to the track, like different brake fluid, you're going to maybe upgrade the brake pads a little bit, stickier tires, maybe say put some coilovers on if you really want to, or so. You're anyways going to spend, no matter what you buy, normal car wise, you're going to want to soup it up a bit, to just get that little extra edge out of it. So let's say
it's going to need stripes, quite frankly.
OEM++.
OEM++, baby, yes.
Yeah.
So with the E36 M3, you're going to, let's say I have 100 grand left or so, if you're buying a good example for 200k.
You're not going to get a good example for 200k.
Well, you're going to get a good example for 220, 230k. There's quite a few on Marketplace. And
that doesn't make it a good example.
Yes. But that's where you leave yourself some money to just do the stuff you would need to do. You don't have to go buy a 300k car because you want to take it on track. If you buy something that you're going to spend the money on that you know is you spent the money on the right stuff compared to buying a good example and it hasn't been driven for like 10 years and everything breaks the first lap you're going to do. I mean, if you're going to take an M3 that hasn't driven for 10 years, you're going to bring that motor out in the first lap.
Well, you're going to do that in any case because you haven't done the bearings last week. So.
Yeah, this is also true.
You leave you leave yourself a lot of budget left, right? If you find a
you leave
cheap
yourself
one.
some budget
but
left.
But then, I mean, you lose like a bit of the creature comforts. It depends on how much of you want to compromise on, right?
So I think it's a track day car, right? So I don't think he expects too much of it. He needs to be able to drive it to the track, I assume, from wherever he lives. I don't think it's the kind of... You wouldn't want to buy a race car and just use it on the track because then you need to trailer it and stuff. But what bothers me is if you look at the data, you look at the clues, right? It's all there if you look at it. So what he said was that, I've become quite good at driving. So he sees himself as a driving god. I can drive. Now, coming from someone who hasn't been on a track before means he definitely can't drive.
No, I was going to say that he doesn't know anything.
It's based on his, playing with a game controller on Gran Turismo, and driving his car fast on the N1. That is what he probably bases his driving prowess on. So M3, it's quite a raw car. They're quite sharp, rear-wheel drive, not that many nannies and stuff. I think he may just kill himself with a rear-wheel drive car if he doesn't have the skill set.
Well, here's the thing. If he's going to try and anyways go balls to the wall from the start, he might just kill himself with a Fiat Punto.
Yeah, I think that's the thing of when you go to a track. I mean, we've all been there, right? You overdo it. You'd rather do it on the track at least than...
But we know for a fact that his confidence is higher than his abilities.
Yes,
Now, that bothers me getting in a car
100%.
like that because he's going to go balls to the wall and he's going to put it in the tires in the first corner.
Here's my reasoning for that BM as well, is there's a lot of parts availability for them. Because so many people build them, there's a lot of parts availability for them, whether it's upgrades or OEM plus parts. So if he bins it and bends something, at least he will get parts quite easily.
I also think that the E36 M3 is maybe not the worst first rear-wheel drive car to go out and hoon.
It's got quite linear power
because it's quite linear. It's quite well sorted handling wise. It's not something that's particularly unforgiving. It will bite you, but it'll tell you before it does.
It may, but I don't think our letter email writer,
Mr. Drive Hard.
Drive
Mr.
Hard,
Drive Hard.
will have the ability to listen to it when he tries to tell it that.
I mean, if you want to stick in the BMW family, if you're not want to keen on E36, maybe what you do is look at E90 and get like a 325 or a 330.
Yes, 330.
Something like, even or in a 1 Series, like a 130 or 125, something
Yes.
like that. Even the coupe, the hatchback or the coupe one, the 1 Series. That's something that you can really test yourself with. And you've got a little bit less power. Plus, there's a lot of room to actually make
Improve on
improvement.
it.
And,
Yeah.
improve on it and modify it a little bit and keep something that's got creature comforts.
I think the M3 is a bit wasted on him, to be honest, because you kind of have to, rev it out a bit, wring its neck. It's a.
It's got to have decent street cred as well.
Oh man, but the any sort of M BMW, I mean, if you can afford it with a proper sort of a carbon, if you really want to splurge on it, carbon airbox. Oh, that for me
that
just
But you have
sounds.
to. But fortunately, so it's a good.
sounds
He's
amazing.
going to drive it on the track, because
Because of induction noise, that's what we
Yes.
want.
But you don't. There we go. There we go. Little product placement there.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you work at AWS as well?
Yeah. We like to suck.
Yeah.
We've thrown you off your story.
Well-
What would you suggest, Andre, since you're so anti-BMW?
Critical of Nico's
I'm not
choice.
critical. I'm just
Which Alpha would you tell him to buy?
Tell him to buy an Alpha would be a waste on him.
Why have you taken? Am I the only one who's picking up that Andre's like taken a distinct disliking to Mr. Drivehard?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, poor Mr. Drivehard. You've not profiled him. Maybe if you profiled him, he might have a little bit
Mr.
better.
Driver needs to kind of operate in the area that he would be comfortable and at home in, which
So
would be like
what you're suggesting. He buys a minivan and just grows slowly beige.
that he could do. But no, so I think a front wheel drive something like 300,000 rand is a lot of money for a person like that to spend on a track day car. To be honest,
I think he was also.
he needs to start with a 100,000, 200,000 rand car and then build up to that. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, what my sort of thinking of that was is like, before you buy a car, just take the car that you have and go to a track day.
And
Just-
burn that.
That first. But, the thing is, it's about getting a feel for it, getting a feel for what the conditions are like, and feeling, of like, and then you realize where your limit is quite quickly, because anything faster than that. I mean, we were at a track day the other day where we saw something unfortunate of someone overdoing it in a very expensive car. And funnily enough, I recently looked into this myself, and that's why I went to go look at and partly my answer would have been buy a 350Z. I went to look at a Z, leave yourself some room. For 300 grand, you can really find one around 200, even less. And then you've got a very high ceiling. The motors are fairly indestructible.
Yes.
You pop a new motor in there for 30 grand.
Yeah.
Buy the motor at least for 30 grand. But on the other side, I've also got a thing for a hot hatch. I mean, whenever I think of track day cars, I always consider what cars I see the most going around the Nürburgring. And really enough, the first thing that popped into my mind is find yourself, and I'll tell you why, is something like a Golf GTI, and then tweak that. And the reason for that is what I've learned from watching way too many Nürburgring videos, is that there's sort of the stuff like, your axles and bearings wears out a lot slower than, for instance, a Polo GTI. If you look at the channels where the guys are tracking them continuously and building these sort of taxi cars.
Yeah.
And something like that, you've got creature comfort in it. It's fairly comfortable. If you can find like a Golf 5 or a Golf 6 GTI, you can still drive it probably daily. But, I think if something goes wrong, probably it's going to cost you a bit more money. So I think that the route there is actually, I would prefer NA. So I would, if I stick my head out, I'd say, buy a 350Z, do a nice OEM Plus Club Sport build. You can do do a bit of camber arms, tweak it a little bit, and you can do it in stages, because you're going to do with the Z, if you drive it properly, you're sealing with some decent brakes and it's doing sub 130s. If you put proper brakes on it, proper tires on it, the big thing for us, our local racetrack with something like that is brake overheating. That's the big thing with Killarney, depending on where
Especially when you're driving a 2-ton car.
Yes, Quentin. Yes.
I think I agree with you on that was one of my options would be either if you can find a 370Z or a 350Z HR, kind of the car that you looked at, that would be a good option, I think. But I think something like a Megane RS. Front wheel drive, very capable car and easier to drive.
It's also easy to strip out because the build quality on the interiors are awful. So if you want to rip the interior out of it, it's just like, and off it comes.
Not 2 screws and there you go.
Tupperware.
But it's you're talking about creature comforts. But I think if you're looking for a track toy, I think that's such a. If you've got aircon to get you to the track, I think that's plenty.
I mean, that kind of like does make it open. Like, you know what I almost want to say then is then just buy a dedicated race car and go own your craft with that. There's so many cars that you can buy for 100 to 150,000. Go buy an older Polo Cup. You can even, I mean, from that, not to old Polo Cup car. If you really want to make your budget 300, I think you can buy like an older Polo Cup car. Of course, your maintenance is insane with that.
You can build. You can buy a front running Class B challenge car, like a modern Polo 6 or whatever, like a really, really good car. But I don't think this is the kind of exactly. You need storage space, whatever. So I think.
And as well, he said he doesn't want to race seriously. He just wants to do track
days. No, but you don't have to race seriously. You can do track days with that.
And the issue is some track days don't allow you to drive with a full race car.
Sure, but there are track days that allow it.
No,
Most track days will allow it.
Or you can go on practice days and you can go become a member.
The thing is, the overwhelming, I mean, and I think we'll get on that topic on the next sort of few episodes was, if you want to buy, like, if you really get into it, buying a race car versus building one is a lot cheaper. A lot better.
Building a race car is very expensive.
Yeah. So it's you should rather than somewhere you need to stop and say like, okay, there's a transition that you want to do.
Yeah.
Unless it's purely like a project car, you're building yourself a decent project car and you're happy to tinker with it.
It's about the journey. It's about putting the money in.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So
you guys are all wrong.
You're going to say Toyota 86.
No. You guys are all wrong.
He's going to say a Harper Type 5.
But you can't buy a Harper Type 5.
You can buy a Harper Type 5.
Well,
there was
maybe
one for sale.
A used one.
Of course.
But not for that money.
There was a Harper Type 5 for sale for $299.
But that's an exception.
Okay.
Dude.
So here's what you do.
It was for sale.
It was one and it's gone.
It still is for sale.
Where's that?
Up in Joburg.
Vatswayo.
Send it to me.
It used to belong to a guy called Hayden.
Oh, yes.
That car gently caught a little bit on fire at Killarney once, and then he replaced the engine. And since then, it's been very nice. But it's a fairly sedate Type 5. It's a naturally aspirated 4AGE that's in there, I think.
Not a
lot of car for the money if you think about it. That's a very high ceiling for you to go and try and.
For 300 grand, a track day car, you would be silly to buy anything other than a Lotus 7. Just a quick break in the show, guys. I just want to take a second to thank all of you for listening to the show. We've been having a lot of fun with Season 2, and I must admit, the numbers kind of suggest that you guys are having fun with it as well. So if you haven't already, please make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, click buttons, just interact with us on whichever platform you are, because all of that helps us rank higher in the algorithms. We show up on more people's homepages and more people will end up listening to the show. And of course, the more people listen to the show, the more viable it becomes for us as not only as a business but as a show. I mean, we don't want to just sit here talking to ourselves, despite what it might sound like at times. Today's sponsor is actually Master Panelbeaters. They have sponsored this episode, and Master Panelbeaters is still my preferred major structural repair center. I've actually got 3 cars sitting there at the moment, getting some minor stuff done, stone chips and scratches and that kind of thing. But Master Panelbeaters are actually very capable of fixing just about anything. If you listen to the story of the guy who had his Camaro smashed up at the end of Season 1, when Stephen came to the studio, you'll know exactly what they are capable of. I mean, this was a guy who who bought this car brand new in the 70s. It's been his pride and joy his entire life. And when it got smashed, he genuinely thought it was dead. He thought it was a write-off. He will never drive it again. Stephen and his team brought it back from the dead. They completely, perfectly matched the color of the paint that the car was supposed to be. And they brought his baby back. Something that you would not be able to do with any other panel beaters, I don't think, because Stephen is a car guy. And he goes the extra mile to make sure that the car is as good as a car guy would expect it to be. And that's why I like using him, because I know that if I take my car to him, it's going to come back and I won't have any issues with it. It's going to be perfect. So please check out Master Panel Beaters. They are on our Facebook page. They're on our webpage. We're mentioning them on Instagram as well. They've got their own Facebook pages, and you can find them on their own website as well. They're in Montague Gardens. If you have anything that needs doing to your car, cosmetic work, structural work, rust removal, anything like that, check out Master Panel Beaters. Thank you very much for sponsoring this episode. Thank you very much to you guys for listening, and let's get on with the show. Because it is a very forgiving car for rear-wheel drive. And it's
got no ABS.
It's got no ABS. It's got no.
Very intimidating.
It's not intimidating. Have you driven one?
Yes, but you're also you're like in a freaking you're in a chicken coop.
So
it's like
I had a Birkin, which is probably your higher end of Lotus 7
you
replica.
can buy a Birkin for that money.
You can.
Is a Birkin a bird in real life? What is a Birkin?
No, it's named after the creator's last name was Birkin.
Oh, okay. So it's not like, this.
But I don't know what else
So
a
like
Birkin is.
Falcon or something like that.
Falcon or Eagle.
Yeah.
The bold Eagle
You can
Type
get
5.
you can get a really nice Birkin for well under 300 grand to start yourself off with. Drive that to the track, drive it on the track, take it to Sunday breakfast runs, all that kind of stuff. It's perfectly suited for all of that. And if you want to get more serious about the track stuff, it's easy to modify.
Yeah.
And it's easy to get a lot more speed out of those
Very
things.
quick, yeah.
And also your cost of maintenance in track use is very low because the thing weighs nothing. So it doesn't use brake pads. It doesn't use tires. It doesn't use the suspension components. They just last forever.
Yeah.
Because it's such a lightweight car. And that, for me, gives the best sensation of driving on a track, is when you have something that lightweight that you can throw around and teaches you about driving. And I mean, from personal experience, I've never learned more about driving from any other car that I've owned than my Birkin.
Well, I mean, that's kind of as basic and as raw as you can get. So I think your answer is the correct answer. I'm not sure about our Mr. Drive Hard, whether, that's kind of flashy enough, or he wants to, have a GTI with some, fancy wheels on it and what have you.
Point to the bit where he says it must be flashy.
I'm not saying it is.
You're reading way too much into this, man.
I think I agree with you. I mean, either that or like a Toyota 86, right? Which is fairly, and they're fairly quick as well, with a couple of basic mods. But the thing for me is the also question is, how comfortable does it need to be doing other things, right? So, if it needs to double up as the car that you drive to work now and then.
I didn't get that from it.
Yeah, if it's a pure track car, then I think your answer is probably the right.
Even so, I drove my Birkin to work several times. I used to
when it wasn't raining.
When it wasn't raining, I was driving it.
Yeah,
and you can do that.
There we go. So,
there's the answer.
For a car,
or what you can do is buy a Birkin and buy like a ab-off or something, and have a daily ab-off and a Birkin, whatever, for 300k.
But he's got a daily driver. He just wants a track car.
But if you want something more excited,
I think we've got it. No?
Yeah.
If he told us what his daily is, then it would make it a bit easier. But I think you're right.
It's not in the email.
I know.
It's not there.
I'm saying it's not there.
To be honest, I'm going to say, like, I don't get it. Maybe it's because I don't own enough tweed, tweed jackets. But I don't know. Like I think maybe I'm just more of a tin top. I just prefer the sort of. I grew up in the sort of saloon car, production car racing days, and that's always appealed to me.
Yeah.
Not the
Says the dude with the
I was
350Z
thinking the
Roadster.
same. I was just thinking the same.
So wait a minute, Neil. So your daily driver, your road car doesn't have a roof.
yes
Your scooter,
doesn't have a
no
roof.
roof. Your race car,
Doesn't have a roof.
so this is what I call
I didn't
hypocrites.
say I made the right mistake. My advice can be the right advice, but
Don't do what I do, do what I say.
I've learned from mistakes then, basically.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Good.
So, guys, we've got, how long is it to Simola
weeks?
now?
2 weeks.
What?
I think it's 2 weeks or 3
No
It's 3
way.
weeks.
Is Simola 2 weeks away?
2 weeks away.
2 weeks away, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it?
Holy
2 or 3 weeks? Yeah.
Time
What is the
flies.
date of it
weeks.
again?
I think it's the
2.5 weeks. The
It's
second,
from the 2nd of
the
May.
second,
Second of May.
yeah. But
From the
this
2nd
year,
to the 6th.
this year we are doing it properly.
Yeah.
There's none of this like, quickly sneak in there on the Friday. Maybe we watch a parade. Just get there, go pack stuff out. No. We're leaving on the Thursday,
Thursday.
right?
Yes.
Before everything starts.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
Simola starts, we will be there.
We're there
Already.
already.
Yes.
We've already had a braai and everything before Simola starts, basically.
And depending on the car that we take, we already may have thrown some handbrake turns and
Correct.
on a closed track and all sorts of things.
Yes.
So, I mean, we've obviously done Simola before, and we did it pretty perfectly. I don't think you could really improve very much on the way that we did it.
Yeah.
And I think for those who are considering it, you should definitely follow our advice because it is so much fun.
It is the first timer's guide.
Get yourself
to,
a cool car.
Oh.
Get yourself a couple of good mates so that you can all go together. You're not sitting on the road for hours by yourself, like
Yeah.
Billy No Mates. And rent a big house, have a jaw, make a proper weekend of it. It's not just an event that you go to, it's a holiday.
Yeah.
Take
And-
some proper
and the
braai.
thing is,
if you identify as a meat eater, of course.
You can put an egg
You can go on your own if you're a vegan. You know, or you don't have to go with your friends.
you and your carrots.
Hello,
exactly.
Vegans going to motorsport events? Come on. They'd be at the E-Pre or something.
That'll be the Simola Hillclimb.
Eel climb.
Isn't that supposed to have been seductive or something from what you said with the EE?
I don't know. Do you feel
Oy,
aroused?
oy, oy. But, the thing about Simola that I enjoy the most, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the thing I really enjoyed about Simola wasn't, the motorsport's awesome. It's obviously awesome. The cars are obviously awesome. But the thing I enjoyed most about Simola is there's like a genuine vibe and atmosphere throughout the whole town.
It's
everywhere you go to a restaurant and there's teams of racing drivers and mechanics and stuff at a table, and you go to the shops and it's full of people in their overalls and their racing gear and whatever.
Greasy hands.
It's like the whole town.
It's not about cars.
Just gets taken
it's
over.
about car people.
Yeah.
It's about people around cars. It's cars bringing people together, basically.
It is, and it's.
But just a quick one. So for the folks who are new to the podcast, who may have tuned in this week for the first time, right?
Well, obviously.
What is Simola? What's your elevator pitch?
Well, if they've only tuned in now,
Yes.
obviously what they should do is go back to episode 1, season 1, and start listening to the entire podcast because, you've missed a lot.
Yes. But if they are hearing this, it's too late for
It's,
that.
there's a massive hill, cars go brr.
Cars go brrr, uphill.
Simola
Yay.
is a hill climb event. For those who are completely uninitiated, a hill climb event is essentially an A to B race. It's not a lap. It's point to point, going up a hill with some twists and turns. Generally speaking, most hill climb events will favor a car that handles well, but also has a boatload of power.
Because it is a hill climb, you're always
Because it
going
is a
uphill,
hill
so you
climb.
need big power. But it's basically it's going up a mountain pass.
But
That's
it's
literally what it is.
it's also interesting because it's not a prepared racetrack surface. It's a public road.
Yes.
There's no runoff areas. There's no crash barriers. There's no safety nets. If you get it wrong, you're going to know about it.
The danger factor is up. And
Yeah.
I think the other thing that makes it quite challenging and interesting to watch also is the bravery that you need, because the conditions are very different. It's not like a track where the surface is the same everywhere.
Yeah.
There's
like last year, on the last day, when it started raining, the start of the track was soaked and the end of the track was dry. So the guys who ran on dry tires actually ended up doing better than the guys who thought, oh, crap, let's use the wet tires because we're not going to make it.
And let me tell you, there was no one with bigger balls than the guy in the Ranger Raptor who put it completely sideways, facing a hill.
But can it also be said that that vehicle,
Is brilliant.
considering that it was a completely stock standard, just rolled off the
Yeah.
showroom floor
With terrain tires.
with
Yes.
all-terrain tires, mullering up that hill the way that it did was bloody impressive.
It was very impressive.
Yeah, you do have like an ex-touring car champion behind the wheel, which
Yes,
I guess
well,
which helps.
off-road racing champion,
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
national
But, I
off-road
mean,
racing champion as
off-road,
well.
Yeah, so you could probably say like if you give him wider space, he'll probably been quicker with those tires, clipping the corners a bit more.
He would have been quicker running next to the track rather than on it.
If the whole track was mud rather than tire, it would have been quicker.
I mean, I think like it's for me. I think it's like probably the fourth or fifth year going now, and it is one of those. I think it's one of the best organized motorsport events.
It
in the
is very
country.
well organized.
It is. I mean, the only feel that I've had that when you walk up the hill and you hear the sounds, like when we were, I remember like last year, the similar. It's a very similar experience I felt. When I went to Spa for the first time, is you're in the mountains.
Same kind of terrain, right?
Same
like
kind of terrain,
like
yeah,
almost
exactly.
like a forest kind of feel
Foresty
to
vibe.
it.
And it's raining, of course, as well. Normally it rains during the time there, and you hear the sort of echoing off the mountain of these cars, and it's a very cool.
Unique
feeling
to South
you get.
Africa, right? We don't really have anything
There
else.
isn't really exactly. There isn't really like that. I mean, the last proper event I think was when we had the proper rallycross in Cape Town before they started
Doing the
racing the
electric cars.
toasters.
But it's different. I mean, it's a cool motorsport event, but
Yeah.
that's also like going in circles around a track. It's not.
Yeah, it's something completely different,
This
yeah.
this is like being in like forest kind of setting. and
Yeah, so take your tackies.
Hill climb is a very, it's very historic, if I can put it
Yes.
that way. I mean, hill climb is a very,
Since the automobile started,
it is
they
a very
started-
old-fashioned sort of form of motorsport.
Yeah.
And that's why they still do traditional things like have the wheel chocks behind the wheel. They don't need that, but it's kind of tradition. That's what you do. So it's a very oldie-timey kind of motorsport. And that's also why Simola, I think, has the Classic Fridays, because that's quite cool. It's very rare to see people take their old classic cars, sometimes fairly valuable classic
drive
cars,
them in anger.
and drive them in anger the way that they were built and designed to be driven. But you get to see that on the hill climb. It's
And the thing
quite
is,
fun.
you wouldn't be taking that same car on track necessarily. Because if you go on track, you are racing door to door with other people.
Yeah.
And if you've got something that's kind of priceless, that you're very, precious on, you're not going to want to risk that and, put it on with other guys racing and like, oh,
If I bin it, I can kind of live with it. But
Yeah.
if Frickie pulls a move next to me and smashes me off the track, I'm not going to be best pleased with Frickie.
the variable you can control, the driving, you are taking full responsibility for that. On a racetrack with other people in classic cars, there's another factor that you can't control. So
No, there is.
And it's probably one of the most viewed motorsports in South Africa. I don't even think the Extreme Festival gets as much eyes on the streams
The stream
as,
quite- I didn't
as
even
the
notice
hill climb does.
I think it's also because the hill climb is very
Relatable.
it's not just relatable, but they're very open to the media.
Yeah.
Yes,
I mean,
they promote it a
Cobs
lot.
and Coffee, granted, is an automotive journalistic giant. But
The Evo of South Africa, basically.
We are the Evo of South Africa.
But the small people
But-
like Car Magazine can also enter.
You know,
exactly.
anyone
Even
who's
them.
got anyone
them
who's got
chances.
Even the
a
newspapers.
fairly reasonable car blog or website or YouTube channel can get press credentials to go to Simola, and it makes the word spread. You know, and the more people are covering it, the better you're going to get.
And I think they've got a good relationship with the manufacturers and everybody.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah.
normally like
There's always
big-
really good
big push from
manufacturers.
Mercedes
Volkswagen,
is again there,
Geo,
Suzuki,
Toyota. Yeah, they're
Toyota.
bringing factory cars.
And
VW.
I mean, last year we were the first ones to basically see the GR Corolla.
Yes.
That hadn't been
Before it was
released or
launched.
whatever. And they have that whole car show in that field on the, I think it's on the Friday night?
It's on the Friday,
Yes.
And I mean, it was cool. Mika Salo and a few of
Yeah.
those guys
Yeah.
was there. That
He was
was
driving
awesome.
and you always see old race and rally drivers like,
Yeah.
you know, Richard Rutz and these guys. They don't race actively anymore on track, but they come and show you they can still do it
They can
on,
still pedal,
on
yeah.
the Sunday. And
It is harder to become a driver, though, if you're trying to enter, than spectating, unfortunately.
how would you
As-
know that, Niku?
Unfortunately, me and Neil found out as we tried to enter, but we were outclassed by the amount of Mustangs that is there now. But not to worry.
But the
You don't-
Mustangs
you
wouldn't have
don't
been in
sit-
your class, surely.
You don't sit next to the road. You sit a bit elevated, so don't be scared of the Mustangs. They won't bite you. They might bite the dirt, but not you. So don't
I
worry.
think that's like my only, you know, it's because as like someone who's been fortunate enough to actually make the cut once, is I looked at some of the competitors in my class that raced there, and I mean, for me as a sort of average Joe, like it was a lot of effort to get there. You know, you want to make sure the car's ready. You know, it's a big risk to take it up there, and it's very prestigious to you know to go. And I mean, you feel like, okay, wow, you're really between, like, you know, to make the cut there once is good enough. But in my class, for instance, so you know, my sort of 6-cylinder, normally aspirated, there's only 2 entrants, so it'll be cool. I hope in the future also they, you know, create some competition for the guys, because in the end, when you enter something like that, you don't go there to parade. You know, when you put the
wanna
helmet
go
on,
drive.
you want to drive, you know, and you
Yeah.
want to test yourself a little bit. Of course, you drive within your means. So I hope that there's, you know, that what I'm saying is, like, I hope the event grows and that there's more, that you get more diversity in it in the future, and that they allow also, because I think what was really appealing for me about Simola, as well as both a spectator and someone who's entered it, is I literally could sit next to my childhood heroes. I mean, I sat in the briefing, it's like,
You technically
there's Richard
raced
Roots.
against them on the, you know?
Yeah, I mean, there's Richard Roots sitting there. Like, Richard was one of my, like, childhood, like in South African motorsport was my hero.
Yeah.
You know, right? So it's like, I'm sitting here, you know, like, and it's so I think I hope they don't forget that the guys, like, entering, even if you enter your McLaren, right, road car, or your Audi or your Alpha, you're still there to race. You're still there to compete. So I hope that they keep the
You're a
long term, they keep
competitor.
that
Everyone
ethos
pays
there.
the same entry fee. You know, but I think it would be, you know, speaking about relatable, it feels like that puts it more in touch, and it is more relatable. Seeing a car go up there, you know, maybe you've got a Nissan 350 and you see somebody go up there with one, or you know, whatever your car is. You know, I think that makes it more relatable to spectators. It's all good and well seeing those, like, monsters, 1,000 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower Skylines go up there. That's amazing. But it's also good to see in between,
There
seeing
is some relatable.
There's some
stuff. I mean, there's quite a few Suzuki Swifts on the entrance list, for example.
There was another 2-liter naturally aspirated vehicle on the list. I just can't remember what it was, which would have probably been my class. Well, not probably, which would have been my class. Also front-wheel drive. I just can't remember. It's about halfway, just between halfway.
Last year there was a Fiesta ST or something.
Yeah, there's a
last
Ford
year.
Fiesta.
Yes, it's a Fiesta
There's a
ST. It's
normally
the
aspirated.
NA 2-liter.
Yeah,
was there last
there's
year
a
as well.
naturally aspirated
Was there last year.
Fiesta ST in B1 class.
So that I think is actually is a prize winner from the Killarney Advanced Driving. They do nice. Which is quite cool.
So it's probably
Yes,
like a
that's
stripped
right.
out vehicle.
You win your drive there.
You win
Yes,
your
that's
drive
cool.
there. Isn't it that with like that
like the
Master
Gran Turismo
Drive
movie,
with
but
Master
with
Drive or someone?
different.
Yeah.
I think do that.
Actually, not a bad choice for a track day car. Actually, those sort of that generation Fiestas or.
But just
you can get it for
beware,
cheap, though.
just beware of the Fiesta's lift-off oversteer. They do have a tendency to wag their tails a little bit. But you mentioned the monsters that go up the hill. Just to give some of the people
the
out
monsters,
there.
but also the purpose-built single-seaters. I mean, the Gould.
Yeah, I mean, we've
that holds a
got the
record.
Gould with a McLaren engine with a 3.8-litre naturally aspirated V8 in there.
That's faster than the wind.
There's a Pilbeam with a Nissan Infiniti 4-litre V8 that's also just ridiculously fast. There are single-seaters with IndyCar motors in them.
Yeah.
There's a Lotus Exige with a Mercedes SLS 63 AMG motor in it.
Ooh, I remember that car.
I mean, that's kind of like Hennessy Venom territory, right?
So we've got the three Hubert brothers that also race with us in sim racing. So the one brother, I'm not sure if the others would be there. Probably the Lotari. So there's a Lotus Exige with a Ferrari
motor.
488 engine in. It's Davi's car. And then there is Peter Hubert's car, is the yellow one with the AMG 63 motor in, SLS motor. And then there's a third one, which I think was the quickest last time, or close to the quickest, has a very modified Honda motor. I think it's a V6 Honda turbo motor that it has in Scholl. So those are the three brothers with the...
Big
But
Lotus
interestingly enough, there's also this year a BMW Z4 with a 427 cubic inch
That's
LS7
that's Dr. Mike Verrier's car.
Chevy motor in it.
So that's the
Gen
local...
from Gen that
Is
Gen A
it
transport car.
Mike Verrier?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So Dr. Mike's the guy that started the sports SA Sports and GT Sim Racing League. He's the guy that started it. He raced a Can-Am at Killarney in Sports and GT. That's his car that he races in the Extreme Series now.
Yeah.
And then the other...
It's a NASCAR motor.
Yeah.
No.
It's a NASCAR motor. It comes from a NASCAR
spec motor, I believe.
Yeah.
I thought the
and a GT3 body kit.
No, the one with the GT3 body kit has a Hendrickson 5.7 liter.
Oh, then
That's
that
the
one. So
NASCAR
there's
one.
two
That's
actually.
the one with the NASCAR motor in it. But yeah, I mean, some really interesting builds there and some crazy horsepower. I mean, we were talking to what was that guy who had that Cobra with like 1,500 horsepower?
Or something like that.
yeah.
His surname is
Zank.
Craig Zank.
Yeah.
Craig Zank Racing. They had that crazy
He's got
Cobra
big power things there.
with like 1,500 horsepower.
Well, you
And they
never
also have a
know.
Lotus
The
Exige
thing
with
is,
mega power there.
you sit and you watch that thing launch off the line, and it is a mother of violence.
It's
Because
violent.
obviously you're trying to handle the car up the course and go around the corners and keep your lines and whatever. But when you get to that end of the field, quite a lot of it is just not making it rip itself to shreds or
Taming the beast off the line.
it's taming the beast because the thing just hasn't got enough traction to put the power down that it's got. Some of those cars are just ludicrously powerful.
And the challenge with hill climb is, especially for those sort of cars, is if you are not running hill climb specific tires, to get those tires, I mean, you're not going to get tires warm by the top of the hill. It's quite, I think, quite tricky, because
A lot
especially
of
running slicks.
guys do burnouts in
That's
the
for the
pits.
four-wheel drive. So the four-wheel drive cars, the Nissan, the Skylines and stuff, there's like insanely powerful Skylines from the guys from Natal, the Zoot,
That blue one that
Good
was
side.
shooting
Good
massive
side.
flames.
Good side,
Oh, yeah.
the Good Side guys from
Every time that thing changes
from
gear, it
Natal.
sounds like a
But
cannon.
they've got a bunch of those. There's a bunch of those like R33, R34, R32 Skylines with insane wings and power. And those things, they would spin all four wheels to kind of eat up the tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's crazy. And then, of course, there is the love it or hate it snowplow
Yes. Of,
run by the Scribanti
Scribantis.
team. That car is hugely impressive.
It is a marvel of modern technology. That it is.
I would actually love to see a few of those cars also competing in some of the international hill climbs, like
So, but there is a guy.
The MR2.
Yes, the Toyota MR2, Peter Zili.
Yeah, he
I
took
didn't
his
see
car.
that on the entry list
He
this year.
competed in Europe in some hill climbs. And the other thing that I wanted to say, when you said there's quite a following, there's an international hill climb specific kind of channels in YouTube and Facebook and they made quite a big thing about last year about Simola. They actually had it streaming through their channel as well.
Hillclimb Monsters, I think.
Yeah, with many people watching it, and I often see them kind of sharing things like the Lotari, like our homegrown Lotus with the Ferrari engine.
Yeah.
And then you see like thousands of international people liking it and commenting on it. So
I wonder if we get any international drivers this year. We probably would.
there's always
There's
international
always going to be
folks.
some wild card
And
who shows
last
up.
year, one of the highlights was Peter Solberg
Yeah.
in
Crazy.
the
That was
in
just
the,
an
in
insane-
the rallycross championship car, and I think they basically it was some story like the
They
car
took
was
it. They literally took it out of the museum. Yeah, they
I
literally
think they
took
just
it
put
out of the museum as is. Took it out, did an oil change,
They
ran.
did it all change. I think it's like the same tires on that it had in the
Yeah.
museum. So they just went, and that was violent. That was
Apparently-
just
But
something.
it's such an insanely impressive display of car control
Yes.
when that man takes that
Yeah.
car up the hill.
Next
It's
level.
insane.
Do you know where I want to sit a bit more? And I'm definitely going to pack a camping chair also. So I know we go to the pits. We have the turn 2 tickets, but the S is on top. That's
Yeah.
like because it's very very high speed through there.
Last year
I mean,
we
it's-
on the Sunday we spent more time there. I think.
Yeah. we
That's
spent
where I
more time
went
at the
off-roading
resort.
off a hill.
That
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But did you guys have a look at some of the classic entries?
I've not actually looked at that.
So
All I know
last
is
year-
Ashley's
last
junior
year-
is there, and I hope it's going to be finished.
Yeah, some of our friends of the channel are also going to be there, mostly in Alphas. So we've
Trev's
got
there again.
We've got Trevor Tuck is also going to go there again. I mean, he's won his class for like I don't know how many years ever since he's entered.
He's going in the Giulia this year. Didn't he do the
He's
GTA?
going in a old Giulietta, like a slower, like a
Okay.
kind of more classic Giulietta, I believe.
Okay.
The older kind of Giulietta.
Okay.
And then Ashley is going in a white body junior, or like a
GTA build.
GTA
stuff.
kind of build,
Yeah.
and he's doing everything by hand. It's absolutely amazing. We're going to speak to him at some point. But, the stuff that he's kind of taught himself, that car was really like
He bought a wreck.
people would tell him like, just don't go near this thing. It's just like some rust. And
bought
he
a wreck.
built panels by hand, but he's now up against it though. He's going to have to,
Push
pull
the
out all the
tracer.
stops, burn the midnight oil to get that done.
But there's some pretty interesting cars going up. I mean, there's a Lola T460.
Oh, lovely.
There's a T70 Mark 3B.
It's the Chevron there from the Scribantes.
Yes, I believe so. The B19 Chevron
Yeah,
is there.
that's-
There's also a
that engine
B20
in that
F3 Chevron.
The
Then
sound of those
there's-
things are just
Yeah,
absolutely
they do sound awesome.
That's the one thing I've never attended. I've never attended Classic Off-Rider, actually.
This time we're not
You,
going
you're going to want a classic. It's a different vibe. It's completely a different vibe. It's a visceral feeling.
We do need to. We've talked now about the actual event, but we do need to talk about the whole weekend, right?
We've been avoiding this.
so-
Which is the real event, right?
So the weekend, I think we've done it right this year because
Yes.
last year we sort of went there just for the race and then
In and out.
in and out, and we missed a lot. And we really actually at the end of it we said we wanted to spend more
Yeah.
time there. So this year we're going the day before Classic Friday. Gives us time to check into the guest house. We can
Light the fire.
light the fire, get the bride going, go do some
Get the
shopping,
guitars out.
buy the
Record a
groceries,
podcast.
record a podcast,
Have a few tequilas, then record a podcast.
Hang
have
out.
a few tequilas. But essentially it means that we can relax for the event because we're not racing to get to it straight away and whatever.
And quite frankly, we have to make some time up with the amount of time it takes for Andre's beer to get groovy,
Yes.
So
I actually think that we need to have some kind of challenge before Knysna, and if Andre loses this challenge, he needs to shave his beard. If we get enough listens,
I'm
enough
up for
likes, enough comments,
up for it.
then we'll do something. Maybe we'll go
I'll shave
karting
it in
or
whichever
something.
way you want me to shave.
This is dangerous.
I think it could look good with a nice biker stash, that handlebars.
The handlebar.
You can't handle the biker stash.
No, Nick is 12.
I
He can't grow one.
I mean,
You guys will need to beat the ladies and maybe some guys away with sticks when I walk around with with the handlebar.
Anyways, we digress slightly. But the one thing we haven't actually talked about or decided is how are we going to get there? Because last year,
it's like,
last year
What do you mean?
I think we did pretty good. We took the Ravster, we piled into it, we shot through. The Ravster
piled
did it.
into it. You said in the lap of luxury. What do you mean? Piled into it.
Yeah, that's what I said.
you mean our rally car?
In the rally car, and we got there in one piece.
Class A rally car.
And are we going to do the same thing this year? Are we going to shake things up a bit?
I've added a subwoofer.
Oh,
It's disconnected again.
Now you
isn't
see,
it?
that's the problem
It
because
stopped working after the rally, but I'll fix it.
we already ran into problems with luggage capacity in the Ravster last year.
We did?
And now we've got all these microphones and equipment and thing that needs to come with us
Why did we run into trouble? Like what do you mean?
because you had to pack in all your beer tending equipment and that took up half the boot space.
I would say it would be interesting to take the Jagan in the sense of just to spice some stuff up a bit. But, and I've thought about it now, like, how am I going to pitch the V40 to you guys or whatever?
Shouldn't we leave on the Wednesday then?
Yes, we should. But I think there's only two people here that has the right equipment for us to go, and that's the Ravster or the X1, because getting up that hill is a bit of a bitch.
But your X1 is
Front-wheel drive. It's not four-wheel drive.
No?
It's not a four-wheel.
As is my Jag. But I also saw some of the cars in that car park and quite
Did you see
frankly,
them get out?
if they can get in and out of there, then I can.
No, 100%. So
I'm not sure all of them got out easily, to be
look,
honest.
the V40 is probably boring and whatever. So I think the call is between the Jagan and the Ravster.
I wouldn't mind going the V40.
Look, the V40 would be the most.
Pretty nice.
It would be the
It's a
more
bit smaller though, isn't
uneventful-
it? In terms of storage space and stuff.
Yeah, but it's like
It's
a
not
quick.
that. It's
Yeah, but I mean,
The,
it doesn't have a lot of
the
storage
Jagan
space.
is probably the biggest and
Yeah,
probably the most comfortable.
cavernous.
look. If you
I'm
take in
feeling-
if you take in the V40, one of us might just
The Jagan
disappoint one of the people that's actually driving up there when we come flying past. But
The Jagan will
No,
also
the V40
probably
is
cost less
definitely-
to run there and back.
The V40 is definitely the most impressive, the fastest car and the most comfortable and everything. But, it doesn't have a lot of space, right?
I like the idea of, of course, we did the first one with the RAV and it would be a perfect thing again. But since I think we will also be doing it as an annual thing,
Yeah.
I like the thing that we do stuff on a rotational basis.
Yeah.
Try
well,
something
yeah.
different and, great. See in the end after 4 years, like,
Yeah, what was
the best one now?
I mean,
for
the Jagan.
and at least
Yeah.
with the amount of cars Quentin usually buys, but he slowed down now. I don't know if he's a bit sick or something, but usually
Yeah.
with the
No,
amount of times
it's poverty.
You see, you're a bit sick, mate. Yeah. Usually he bought like a car
Money
every year,
sickness.
so we could have taken a different car after we've rotated.
No, we can
after that.
take anyone. I mean, the Jagan could work.
I think the Jagan's a good shout for this year.
We can
You just need to get up that hill.
And
In the mud.
even if we have to park at the bottom of the hill, we park at the bottom of the hill.
Can we plug in your ECU of the tuned Spider for it and we give it a bit extra boost?
Yeah.
It doesn't need extra boost. That thing has so much torque, it's
No,
ridiculous.
it doesn't need it, but it's always fun to have
Look,
it.
to be honest, my calibration for ridiculous talk these days are kind of a bit off.
If it doesn't have 500 Newton meters, it's shit.
But yeah, it has enough. It has enough.
The only other option would be is if we all drive something separate, but I think that's the
Nah.
whole idea is we want to kind of
Yeah,
sit our
yeah,
heads
I
all
would- I
together.
would- yeah.
And when I would do it though, is then you need to do it a bit longer where you go and you take
Well,
Route
if we
66
compete.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
The
Take
road
that
trip with like stop
road trip.
everywhere.
Yeah.
No,
Do a
that's
bit of
be
a
cool.
round trip to get there or on the
Yes.
way back.
A few passes on the way there. Yeah,
Then
yeah.
we just need to shake poverty so that we can afford to take like a week off of work.
Yeah.
But I think also, once we've cycled through all of our cars and we've done Simola a couple of times, I think long term our goal is to
Buy a
buy
vehicle
some
for-
kind of
Yeah.
van slash
Station wagon.
Station wagon
Something that we
kind
can
of-
do the bull run in as well. And
something that's a race car come transporter
Yeah.
come studio on wheels.
100%.
Yeah.
The 2-year plan.
Mobile
is-
studio.
Yes, a mobile
Yeah.
studio.
And that'll become the regular drive up to Knysna. And that car is going to be,
Brilliant.
it's going to be a character in the show,
Yeah.
I think.
They're
So
going to
if you-
Land Cruiser.
If you have a cheap limo that you would like to sell us,
Or an 18 van.
email me at mrq@carbsandcoffee.co.za.
We're going to get a cara cara.
A cara
A
cara?
what?
What's a
Cara
cara cara?
cara. Caravel.
Exclusive.
Exclusive.
Okay.
Exclusive. But we want one with exclusive, not with a VE. It's only the V at the end. Exclusive. With the seats that can swivel. You remember that one when VW
Cara.
brought it out?
No, I remember there was a Synchro, which is a four-wheel drive.
That's the cool, yeah.
The Synchro would get up the hill.
The exclusive
And I
was the
remember
one
a
with the
lot of
seats that
guys
swivel.
did Ford V6 swaps on those things.
Yes.
Or Audi 5-cylinder
I know
motors.
people did that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure why, but some people did that.
Some people did that.
I would put a turbo 5-cylinder Audi.
Yes.
I'd
Just a
V8
lot
the
of-
thing,
There were
man.
some Porsche motors. There were
put
some
a-
with Porsche motors.
Yes.
Just put a V8 in it and be done with it. Proper engine.
Make it wheelie.
Elke naweek kom die engine V8.
Yeah.
V8. So I think that, does that cover Knysna?
A school bus.
It's actually a lot easier.
Well,
I thought we were going to argue about it more,
yeah.
to be honest. But
So
yes,
is
that
that
covers-
decided now? Are we
So,
taking
we
the
take-
Jaguar?
I'm happy with that.
So everybody votes.
Yeah,
We're taking
we
the
can take
Jagan.
the Jagan.
Take
Let's
the Jagan.
We're
We're
taking
taking
the
the Jagan.
Jagan. We're gonna see Quentin.
If we get stuck
So
up the hill,
Never mind getting stuck
It's
up
not
the
your-
hill. We
your- you
might
can
end
say
up.
I told you
But-
so,
We
basically.
might
I
end
told
up
you
at the,
so.
at the side of the road in a cloud of steam, or running out of fuel because the Jag driver never has his wallet.
Oh, this could become expensive. Wait, this could become expensive. Wait, but what I would like to see is you match Andre's handbrake turn.
In the Jagan.
Yes.
No way, dude. That's way too sophisticated to be doing handbrake turns.
it's
on
not
some
a
grass.
it's not a Class A
so,
rally car.
it is so uncouth.
It's not a Class A rally car like we have, man.
Well, I would pull your handbrake. Oh wait. I was gonna say.
Hey,
You want to buy me dinner first?
let's just keep our hands above the table here, boys.
Just hear me out after the pull your handbrake. I will pull your handbrake when we're going down the hill to get you sideways. That still doesn't sound
That still
fun.
doesn't sound good.
Let's move on.
I think
So moving on from Simola, there's
Yes, he
actually...
just decided. You've been demoted from chairing the meeting.
No. I'm done talking about that because we need to talk about the virtual Simola.
virtual Simola.
Virtual Simola. Since
So we've all entered, right?
Yes.
We're all in.
well,
But you don't have to enter, do you?
You don't have to like
enter, yeah.
officially enter, but it basically subscribes you to the mailing list that sends you all the access information
Yeah.
to the service. So alongside the actual Simola Hillclimb, there is the virtual Simola Hillclimb, which happens on Assetto Corsa, which is, of course, a racing simulator. And anyone can take part.
And also, as luck would have it, we did make a brilliant episode of sim racing.
Yeah, there was
previously.
recently an episode on
And
sim
Neil
racing.
wasn't part of it, but
He was
convinced
inspired.
I
him-
was so inspired
He
by
was
it.
so inspired to get his own sim rig.
Yes.
That is basically opening a sim shop now.
I bought a car in the shape of a sim rig, basically. That's
So basically, all four of us can.
So all four of us are going to do
All four
the
of us.
Simola Hill Climb.
And if your rig is not here
Virtually.
this week yet,
Then I can come use yours.
You're gonna come use mine or whoever's just to at least put a time in for.
So how does it
round
work?
one.
How does it work? So you anyone can enter. So it's a
Anyone.
points-based system then,
Yes.
of where
Yeah,
you
it's a-
finish for round 1 and round 2, and then there's a
So-
final round after that to top 20 or whatever.
No,
How does that
so
work?
it's time based as the Hillclimb is, but anyone can enter. There's no limit to how many people can enter, who can enter, or anything like that. You get a car that's setup is locked, tires is locked, everything's locked down, so everyone's got
Everybody
the
has
same
the
car, everything. And they would pick, I'm not sure how many people it is, but for the after round 1, you would have, let's say, the top 20 people gets points. So first gets X amount, second gets X amount or whatever. Then you get the round 2 of qualifying, which is with a different vehicle, but also set up, locked and everything. And you get 20 drivers again there
Points.
that gets points. And then the top 10 goes to the finals, which is streamed live as well with
Okay.
commentators, etc.
But I saw somewhere that they open it only for an hour. So for you to qualify for a time, you get an hour.
No.
No.
Is it not?
The qualifying sessions are
Is
set
hours
up
long.
to be an hour long.
Oh,
but
okay.
you can
pick one and you go.
You can run for the hour, and then when the
resets.
hour runs out, you just
can go
reset
again.
it and go again.
Okay.
And you can also do as many runs as you possibly like up the hill, because it's only your fastest time that counts. So you can sit there the whole day and run 500 laps up the
You know
up the
what
hill.
Neil's going to do
You've
for
got
the
a
next
week,
2
and I
weeks.
mean, you've got an entire week. It's from Monday to Sunday.
Yeah.
Never
So-
mind taking leave for Simola. He's going to take leave on his race.
Just go sim race, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, you've got quite an opportunity to, and I mean, it's the actual Simola people.
You
So
know-
maybe if they see you win this, Neil, they're gonna enter you for free next year.
Going to kick themselves for not letting him
Yeah,
race.
they're gonna say how dare
See my
they.
oversteer control-based capabilities with a 4-wheel drive car. You know what I think? Like they should make it probably, lock it before an hour and make it a couple of hours and say, here's your car. Don't let people go because now, people know what the car is up front already for round 1. You go and practice.
Look, so for the
It was like
qualifying,
eliminate a bit of the
no,
variables.
but I mean, for the qualifying, you've anyways got a week, so it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, true.
So, but for the finals, they only release the cars, I think, just beforehand.
Yeah, it's like a
And
day or two
usually
beforehand.
what they do is it's custom cars. It's not the vanilla Assetto
okay.
Corsa cars. So
So you can't
I mean,
practice exactly.
It's not like you can go take all the cars in Assetto Corsa and practice with them.
Yeah.
It's like
You
and,
could, but it's going to take a while.
Well, especially if you have my Assetto Corsa,
Yes,
because
no,
I have
then-
like over 1,000 cars downloaded on my car.
Yeah.
on
The
my
one thing,
setup.
with the virtual, before I raced a couple, I didn't have a sim rig at the time, but I reached out to a friend who had one, and I did a couple of sessions on there. And the one thing that did translate it exactly was the gearing.
yeah.
The gearing was, the car wasn't the same. Of course, there wasn't the exact car that I was
Yeah.
driving at the time, but your gear selecting,
Yeah.
gearing in the corners was exactly the same.
And that helps
And
a
it
lot
helped a
with
lot.
preparing, right?
And I mean, it's not like the road is smooth in the simulator as well. It's
Yeah.
also, they left it
bumpy.
quite bumpy
Yeah.
and everything. And they've improved on track. I haven't looked at the new
Okay.
track, but I would
Did some scanning and stuff.
imagine
Well, the
it's
road is
better
probably
than-
degraded a little bit, so they probably had to make it more bumpy. Because that's the one thing I think that came out, right, from the actual Simola. Some guys we talked to said they were slower than the year before.
Yeah.
And I wonder if it's not actually road conditions.
Well,
That's
that
possible.
and the conditions as well, like the weather, right?
Well,
if it's
when-
like cold and more rainy and the track is more damp and
And I mean,
you know,
when Simola started, the Simola estate wasn't that big. I mean, if you go there now as well, you see they're still developing it. So there's more cars driving up and
more
down
traffic.
there every day. Yeah.
But as well as Simola and the virtual Simola, there's another upcoming motorsport event that we are going to be quite heavily involved with, and that I would suggest anyone who's wanting to get into racing on a budget should at least consider. And there is, of course, iLamuna,
Which is brilliant.
which is brilliant. So far, the event has a confirmed grid of 28 cars, with a further 20 teams that have basically said that they will be entering. And that's also coming up quickly. So if you haven't yet, get your entry into Mark and start building your car, because you're going to run out of time. And that is going to be a hell of a lot of fun, I reckon.
100%. 100%. That's going to be great fun.
And yeah, get your tickets for Knysna. You can get them on the Simola Hillclimb website, which I think, let me just see if I got it right.
I may or may not have made inquiries this week to find out what it would cost to put a roll cage inside the lab For no particular reason. For no particular reason.
And we might have...
Oh, wow.
And Ashley might... we might do a deal with Ashley for motor and gearbox, but you never know.
These are all mysterious things that have not yet been revealed to the general public, but all will come to the surface in the near future.
Unless you don't.
So, just once again, to get your tickets, go to www.speedfestival.co.za. Get your tickets for Simola Hillclimb. It is, without a doubt, one of the best events on the motorsport calendar that you will ever go to. Come and hang out with us. Come and chat to us. We might even record you for the podcast. We'd like to get some reactions of first-time people on the hill and record what their experiences are. And if you can't be there, tune into the podcast, because we will be possibly... We haven't actually done this yet, so the technology still needs to be tested, but we might do a live broadcast from Simola, or we might just record some stuff and release it at night, so that you guys can catch up with us. But get to Simola. It's worth going, it's a hell of a lot of fun.
What are tips that you guys would give, things that you know people have to do when they go there?
To Simola.
From our
They have
experience.
to come and talk to us.
That's true.
Because that's like the best part.
I would say if you're buying tickets for Simola, the most important thing is buy pit access.
You need pit
Yeah,
access.
pit
You need to
access.
go look at the cars.
At least for
speak
one
to
day.
the drivers. And not just look at the cars. Speak to the actual drivers. Ask them out. And they are so open. The drivers are so open, talking to you
That's
and
the
saying.
thing I was going to point out from last year. I mean, compared to other motorsport events that you go to, yes, Simola is competitive, but there's also a sort of team spirit between all the competitors. Everyone is in it together, racing against the clock, not against each other. And because of that sort of openness and that sort of cooperative vibe, you have more access to the drivers and the cars at Simola than any other event I've been to.
It's this interesting mix of, it's both very professional. I mean, these front running guys, they've got very serious kit, like tire warmers, and like technology is off the charts, like the best you'll find in the world is some of the things they have there. And at the same time, completely open, like you would have at a very local club racing scene. You can shake the guy's hand, have a chat to him, take photos with the car, and they're happy to talk about the experience, about what goes into the car, their prep. So
I felt like I was family to Pete so much that I wanted to cry when I saw the Julia QV go off.
And we are glad to say he is back on the hill this year, so we're going to go there.
Flying the flag for the Alpha boys with his Alpha Julia QV.
Which is also his daily driver, I believe.
Yeah. And I mean, he's almost 70 years old.
Yeah. He's a he's a
trooper.
Well-experienced gentleman, and he can drive.
But yeah.
And you know what he does on a daily basis?
No?
He stays classy.
He stays classy.
Doesn't pull up other people's handbrakes.
No, you do the same, San Diego.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Not pull handbrakes, stay classy. That's what I'm...
Yeah, exactly. Leave your friends' handbrakes alone.